Live on Sportsnet 590 The Fan, Sportsnet 360, and Sportsnet Plus. It's Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Sammy McKee, Derek Brandale, and Jake the Snake Schultz with you for the next 2 hours. We start off on our Leaf edition. Boys, we are Liljegren-less.
Oh, you guys gonna be okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone's gonna move on okay. It's just
I really, really enjoyed saying the lily pad.
they're gonna play San Jose this year. You'll get to say it. Assuming he's not healthy scratched.
By then,
I'm just getting myself back into hockey and Leafs mode. The last 2 nights have been so
You've been baseballed up.
World Series heavy, and I've just been dialed into the World Series, and there's nothing else that's mattered to me other than the World Series. So got to get back into the Leafs mode here with them playing tonight.
Well, we can have a quick moment on the 5-run inning where it felt like the bat flip inning, did it not? Like the 40-minute bad defense.
I really, really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed it.
Watching the Yankees crumble.
It was great. I thought it was if it had been Game 6 or Game 7, it could have been an all-time baseball game, just with everything that happened in it, back and forth, great stuff.
Freddie Freeman too good for it to go 6 or
I
7.
really wanted it to go 6. Like,
Did you?
Well, come on. What's better than that? Sport. Just the human interest in it.
I just wanted the Yankees to lose so badly that as soon as you can get them out of there, I'm happy. So I was happy to see the Dodgers get it done.
Yeah.
And our boy Shohei, the almost J. Shohei almost J.
Could he have milked his shoulder injury a little harder? Holy hell, yeah, we get it. Your injuries, your shoulder hurts. Like
Putting a t-shirt on?
No, he's just like he's doing
He's
the
on
tiger.
first and he's holding his collar like he needs a sling to hold his arm up.
He was
okay.
He was
What
doing
a phony.
He was doing the tiger. When he
Every
did something
bad
bad,
swing.
he was like, "Oh."
You're calling one of the greatest players in the history of the game a phony.
Tiger or Shohei or both. We're calling them dramatic. And you don't need that.
And
if you're hurt, don't play. If you're not hurt, just play.
Last baseball thing, and I said this to Borney off air, but I'll say it to you. The thing that fascinates me the most about baseball and just like what makes it unique is in a lot of other sports, you can control like who is making the decisions at the most important time. Like in hockey, if it's overtime in the playoffs, you know who you're throwing out there. You have your guys you trust, your guys that you're willing to lose with. Football, it's going to be Patrick Mahomes with the ball in his hand. Basketball, LeBron James is going to have the ball in his hand. Yankees fans, their least favorite player all year. They all complain about Alex Verdugo all the time. And your World Series, your season, can come down to your least favorite player. It just happened to be in the batting order. It's their number 9 hitter. There's nothing else like that in sports, where it's just like you can't control who's up there. You can pinch hit, sure, but you don't have any better options off the bench. It's a very unique thing about baseball I love. Anyways, that's it.
I made that. Go ahead.
And you can have a window or a stretch where you totally have lost complete confidence in your star.
Yes. Judge, he was a redemption. He hit the home run, and then he hit a fly ball that I actually think I could have caught.
That one's going to sting
Oh, yeah.
for a
Yankees
very
fans are forgiving, aren't
long
they? They won't
time.
remember
They've
that.
gone soft. Them cheering for him so hard. Like the old Yankee fans would have booed him.
Should have
They
been.
went hard. They went soft.
All right, the Toronto Maple Leafs will welcome in the Seattle Kraken tonight. They make their only visit to Toronto. There will be no Vince Dunn. There would be no Brandon Montour, who had a nice hat trick against Montreal the other night. And
Montour had a kid, right? That's where he went. He went
second child,
Yeah.
baby girl.
Yep.
That's good.
yeah, it's great.
Yeah, get him out of town.
Hat trick. Yeah,
Sort of
see you
hat
later.
trick. Get him out of town.
Yeah, love it.
All right, so you're going to say it or me? It's cookie night for the Leafs?
They're gonna lump up the Seattle Kraken tonight. They're gonna do it. They're gonna do it.
No?
I'm not going there.
You're not going there.
No, I'm not going there.
They're gonna win tonight.
Okay. Well, yeah, they could win, but I'm not like the last time we said cookie night, they lost 6-2 to the Columbus Blue Jackets.
But I think it's fun to set the stage that way. All
cookie
signs
night.
point to it should be a good night. This Kraken team, I understand, is playing pretty decent hockey lately, but they're missing a couple important pieces. Leafs found it last game. Didn't they find it?
I think we're It's going to be
Wool's back.
okay.
Okay, before we get into
Yes.
specifics against Seattle, let's just put a bow on this whole Liljegren
Yeah, that's
story. In about 30 minutes, we're going to welcome in Jason Bukala, of course, from Pro Hockey Group and here at Sportsnet. He's a former NHL scout. And I think he's the perfect guy to just talk about having someone in your system for as long as Timothy Liljegren had been in the system, albeit not a top pick, but a first rounder.
Yeah, 17th overall.
17th
2017.
overall. The time and money you spend in to develop this guy, to hopefully get him in a place where, like, the here and now over the development of someone should be now. Like, you've done all that to get him to the point where now he could fit in with the Matthews and the Marners and the Nylanders, and you hope that this is the time that you're ready to go get that silver trophy. And he can't get one game in.
No,
because why? Because of a new coach?
Well, a couple of things. First off, I think this is like a sunk cost fallacy thing where, you've put all that time and money and effort into him, so you should keep trying. No, I don't believe in that. It's like if you don't think, the second you don't think he's going to be a difference maker for your team, then you should get rid of him while you can get the most value for him.
Yeah, that sounds good today, but I kind of watched him like 3 or 4 years ago. I never saw him much more than a third pair guy, or
that's the best case to be made, is that it should have been done.
Yeah, like years ago.
Yeah. And so is there any concern on your part that this burns them either this year, let's say with their D-core, they're struggling and all of a sudden they need some help in the third pair and can't find someone better than Timothy Liljegren? I'll start there. Is there any concern for you there?
Zero.
Okay. Is there any concern for you that he goes to San Jose and becomes a very good player who plays on the second pair, 22 minutes a night, power play 2? Leafs are like, we should have kept him.
Now, if I'm playing off the zero part, do I say less than zero or more than zero? Because I'll go zero again.
Zero.
How about new?
He is a serviceable guy that can come in and maybe hold his own for 12 or 14 minutes.
You played 20 minutes a game for them last year, which is a reflection of their
thank you
D-core,
yeah,
not him.
It doesn't say anything about Liljegren. It says everything about the lack of depth.
I got to tell you,
over the years,
if Sheldon Keefe had this D-core that they had this year, I think Liljegren's minutes would probably be pretty similar to what they are right now.
Agree.
Although he might play over Timmins because of what Keefe thought about Timmins, and he didn't really seem to love him a ton. So maybe he would have played more in the bottom pair or whatever. But it feels like if he had the options that Berube has this year, might be pretty similar.
My only complaint is that he should have got more than one game. Like in preseason, I think he played one game, and then Berube was like, third pair, fourth pair, immediately bumped him down.
I know, but it's
like, give him a couple to show the coach. Maybe he didn't like me in this one game. What about tonight?
I think the writing was on the wall the moment he invited Myers and
Hakanpää,
and you just went in a different direction here. And the fact that you had some momentum built with Timmins as well. So he's gone. He's out there. It's over. They actually made the decision to not qualify him, but sign him to a new contract. And people were scratching their heads at $3 million and $3 million. Why would you sign him to $3 million when you knew he wasn't going to play? It was because you were protecting an asset.
You were going to qualify him. He might have cost more money.
It was either sign him or have him walk out the door, or stay at home.
Yeah.
But you protected an asset. You turned that asset yesterday into a third and a sixth. Those are picks that you're going to need come March. Those are very valuable picks, albeit not maybe game changers to get stars, but
third doesn't hurt.
They will help.
And that third is a good third. Like it's going to be, they have 2 picks, San Jose, and you're getting the better of their thirds. So you're getting top half of the draft, presumably there. So
they come into play. And the most important thing is now your cap is alleviated.
Yeah. So now they can fit guys under salary cap wise when Hakanpää and Dewar come off IR. The one thing, they need to clear contracts still. 2 contracts need to be
Benning
moved
will go down.
So Benning will go down. and probably Myers.
They'll need another one. They'll need to make one more probably to fit in that roster situation.
Benning makes 1.25, I think, and you can bury 1.15. So you're talking about burying, is that 10 grand? I'm bad at math. Maybe it's 100.
And every day that goes back takes less pressure off your salary cap. To your point, if you need to go add more depth, you can go find another Liljegren.
You think you can? Yeah. I mean, I think that come deadline, you have a column today, which we can get to a little bit, but about how you think a second-line centerman is going to be part of the deadline deal. Do you think, I guess it depends on how Hakanpää goes, but like it's likely they add another depth right shot D at some point.
I think it is a concern for sure. I think it kind of stings a little bit that he is a right-handed shot. And outside of Tanev, Timmins, would be nice to have a third one
is he not ready?
In your rotation.
Yeah, he's ready.
Hakanpää's.
Yeah.
But I don't know if he can play.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know if I can count on him from 1 week to the next.
It sounds like you can't.
Berube
I'm going to be shocked if he's a consistent player for the Leafs.
Berube said at practice today that Hakanpää is getting close, whatever that means. No timeline, but he's getting close.
Right.
So today, I did write for the Toronto Star. I talked about Tavares' hat trick and certainly, give him full credit for.
Are we turning the Lily page?
Yeah, are we good with the Liljegren?
There's just something I wanted to point out here. I saw it from a guy that we've had on our show a few times here, Joshua Cloak. He sent out a tweet that said, the Leafs made 16 picks through the crucial 2017 and 2018 drafts. 16 draft picks. After the Timothy Liljegren trade, just one player from those drafts, 6th-round pick Pontus Holmberg, remains in the organization.
They're bad picks, Bront.
That's, that is really tough for an organization to continue to find. And then you go back and you look at over those, like 2017, 2018, and after that, you're signing guys that are older, that are aging to try to find some value in guys that don't cost as much with the guys making the top money. That's when the cheap talent from your drafts are supposed to come up and sort of, like, that's sneaky been a huge part of some of the Leafs'
I don't know how sneaky it is. I think it's been abundantly clear that they always have been chasing because of their inability to develop their own.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. Like, I went back and I looked at the 2020 draft. Like, not one player has played one NHL game from that draft.
It's all held together with the super glue of Nylander, Marner, and Matthews.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
And
absolutely.
And where you feel about Morgan.
If you look at the two, the sort of benchmark for this guy had an NHL career. Some people say it's 200 games. It's like Dermott, Liljegren, and Sandin all got to those numbers, but Sandin's making 4.6 on the third pair in Washington right now. Like none of Dermott, it was a PTO guy this year. It hasn't been that great.
You got to develop to win championships or to truly be in the mix. You have to develop within your own. And it's been a problem with the Leafs.
Liljegren's the only guy for the 2017 draft that played a game, and then in 2018, the most played is, like I said, it was Sandin, and Dursey, who played 216.
Let's listen to Berube. Go ahead.
And then it puts so much pressure on you not to screw up a Nazem Kadri trade.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, let's listen to Craig Berube, clip 3, his thoughts on Timothy Liljegren.
Well, I think there's, looking back at training camp, there's, I think guys just outplayed him a little bit, but he's got ability. He can, skate, move a puck. I wish him all the best. It just didn't work out here. That's the best way I can put it.
That's Coach speak for bye, Felicia. See you later.
He's not my defenseman anymore.
Yeah. That would have been an unbelievable line.
I'm
not going to comment on him. He's not my defenseman.
If I was Kyrie, I'd say I don't want to talk about him. He's not my defenseman anymore.
Yeah. He said guys outplayed him. Yeah, they did. They did. And I want to take umbrage with one thing that people say, that he didn't get opportunity here or whatever. God. It's like he had so many chances to take the ball and run and
never did.
Never ran. And it's like, there was so much pressure on him in the moments, because he, was healthy scratch in the playoffs. Like, yeah, pressure is a huge part of pro sports.
especially
managing
in
pressure
Toronto.
is like all sports is.
And in here, it's the most important thing outside
So
of
it didn't work. I don't think that one's going to burn them.
Did he mention anything worth listening to about Benning? Or did you just throw that into?
I think the plan for Benning may be the funniest clip of the year in terms of Berube dryness. Let's play it. Clip 2.
Well, we'll get him in here. I think he gets in here later today, and then so we'll chat with him and see where he's at, and talk a little bit, and then we'll figure it out.
How was your flight?
Yeah,
We'll chat a little bit and
check in, I guess, on his way to the other side of the arena that we're at, that we share with the Marlies.
Any plans for Halloween?
See where he's at, I guess.
I don't know.
So we'll chat with him. And
Benning will have to have one hell of a conversation to have much of a chance to be a consistent Maple Leaf, I would say. All right, so, and we don't need the scouting report on Benning, I don't think.
we could play it.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, let's play
one,
the clip
scouting
1,
report
please.
on,
Oh, God.
pretty just stay home defenseman, steady, blocks a lot of shots, things like that. So, yeah, that's what he is.
Wouldn't somebody follow up with can you use that right now?
Yeah.
Is that important to you right now?
Will he be a Maple Leaf? Do you need him?
Yes. No? Nobody
just-
followed up with
listen,
anything?
I don't think they cared enough to follow up. The plan was the follow up. What's the plan?
Yeah.
Chat. We have a chat. You know what the chat do? Like, do you know where Rico Coliseum is? Or Coca-Cola? Sorry.
Do you have ways?
Okay,
Put
so
this in.
you want to follow up a little bit on the article I wrote for the Toronto Star today? Because, coming off of Tavares' hat trick and Pacioretty and Nylander having a good night, we'll see them again tonight. But the feeling is, compared to short-term to long-term, was basically the gist of my article. You can find it on my my ex or former Twitter account at Real Kyper. But let's go to you first. Short-term, long-term on Tavares, the line that we'll see tonight versus Seattle, and where it goes from here.
Well, I would say, so I read your article, thought it was good, as always, thought-provoking. Tavares has had a pretty decent start to the season, I would say, about in line with expectations. He's definitely seen a bit of a diminished role. I don't think he is going to be able to sustain it. The only thing I disagreed with in your article is that, I just don't know who would be available like Ryan O'Reilly. Ryan O'Reilly was perfect. Yeah. He was a defensive-minded, solid second-line veteran who's won. He was perfect as a pickup, and I don't think
Brock Nelson?
I was going to say, I was literally part with your sentence saying, I don't think another guy like that exists. He plays wing, though, doesn't he?
Center, too, as well. He can. But someone a little bit more, I don't know if
Brock Nelson
forceful,
would intrigue me. He's just a big, strong, straight lines guy.
Doll. Can you find
a lot of crease goals?
Can you find, or do you go down a little further down and try to find the next Nick Paul or something that just, I don't know if Ryan O'Reilly would be out there, but to your point, it might be tough. It might be really tough to find a prototypical second.
Yeah.
But can you find a hybrid?
Yeah, Brock Nelson would do the trick for me. These are big asks for the type of names we're talking about right now.
But this is the year that there's no question. First rounders, second rounders, third rounders, take whatever you want. I have to, do I not have to be all in already? Hey, listen, we're not even in November. And we're starting to talk about the Leafs being all in come March.
Is there any chance that Tavares has a good year and you like him and he just, he's more defensive-minded than he used to be, wins a lot of draws?
Based on history, based on trends, I'd say highly unlikely.
The best point you made in your article about that was looking around the Atlantic Division and other 1-2 punches where it's Barkov and Bennett and it's, who is it, Kucherov and...
No,
not
Kucherov. Anthony Cirelli.
Yeah, Cirelli and Point. And the other type of, 1-2s.
Yes.
That win cups. The really elite.
Yeah. And that's not even Boston seems like out of the equation right now. So that's it. if the worst case scenario is, and you have to go Austin, Tavares, and Domi 1, 2, 3 to start your Stanley Cup playoffs, are you feeling good about it?
I'm not saying you've lost. It's not terrible. Like anytime you have Austin as your number one center, you're as good as pretty much any team in the league there. But it falls off. That's a pretty steep decline to 2-3. It's crazy that they haven't given Nylander 4 games. 4 games.
No.
Let's just see.
Nah.
I would say that's the thing we say the most on this show that they don't do. It's just like, let's try this for a couple games. Let's see if Domi works with Matthews and Martin.
That's 2 training camps in a row.
I know.
Where we just did not.
What's going to happen though? He's going to give up a couple goals.
Something scared them off completely on Willie. And I know I mentioned this a few years ago, and I haven't brought it up. But like, why not Marner?
I'm all in.
Why not Marner behind Matthews?
I love it.
Is Austin too scared not to play with Marner?
No, he's not. He absolutely tore the league up without him last year.
Separate them then.
Yes.
My favorite stretch of Austin Matthews hockey was last year without Marner, when he played with the Bertuzzi and Domi, and he played center.
Have you read Andrew Brewer wrote a really good article on why Mitch Marner would be a good second-line center option for them? Obviously, defensively responsible guy, older now, been around the league, and probably as strong as he's going to be in the league for a defensive play. You know, you like a distributor in that spot.
Why was that never?
It's too late now?
I assume they think he's
it's not
small.
too late.
No, it's not.
No.
I assume they think he's too small. That's my assumption, is defensively against Barkov and Bennett or whoever that he can't defend.
Yeah.
Boys, we've been speaking things into existence so far this year, so maybe next practice you'll see him.
Please give us an opportunity to prove that theory then.
Yeah.
That somebody thinks he's too small, which to me is, I don't buy it. But
maybe if Willie played center, he'd get more ice time, which is
nice transition there.
Hot debate at practice today.
So was he asked about this, or did he volunteer this information about his ice time?
Would you like to hear the entire clip?
Yes, I would.
Including an exchange with Luke Fox, I think, and with Mark Masters, I think. So clip 1 on his ice time, Nylander.
Do you miss killing penalties at all?
Yeah, PKing is fun. I mean, it's good to get in the game that way. I mean, if there's a lot of penalties and stuff like that, so keep you going. But yeah, of course, I miss PKing.
Have you found it an adjustment to play a little less this season? Like your average ice time's down a couple minutes.
Yeah, I mean, that is a little bit what I've been trying to talk to Chief about to get that ice time back to where it was before. I think it helps my game a lot to do what I want to be able to do out there. So, yeah, hopefully it's something to figure out.
Because it keeps you like in a rhythm? Is
yeah.
Kind of what you're thinking?
I don't like that.
He's asked.
Okay, tell me why. What's the first thing you're thinking of when you say, I don't like that?
It's not, it's not your job to ask the coach to play more. Like the coach has given you the ice time you've earned.
Oh, that's happened in 50 years.
Yes,
a disgruntled player goes up to the coach and says, I want to play more.
That's fine,
been around
but
forever.
I don't like that we're talking about it here in the media. Like, this seems like something that, like, okay, they can have that chat or whatever. And
he said, that's what I've been trying. Did you catch that? Can you play one more time?
The whole thing?
Well, no, just the part where he says, like, that's what I've been trying to talk to the coach about.
It'll be the second part of the thing after this.
I don't know. Let's listen one more time.
Yeah. Derek's
play
got
the
to
whole
do
clip. That's fine.
He's got to do some on-air editing here.
Okay, all right. Forget it. I got the sense that maybe he's talked to him and it's kind of fallen
on deaf ears.
Do you think? When he says, I've been trying to.
But I also, he says, it gets me going or whatever. It's like, well, we're not here to facilitate you. You're here to help us go as a team. Maybe you're picking up a theme that I have an issue with here, but like, this is not about getting going.
I get what you're saying.
It's about how,
Yeah.
well, it's not what your country can do for you. It's what you can do for our country.
Yes. Thank you.
Extremely well said.
I don't know. We're not worried about your minutes or points.
JB Kennedy.
And Berube, clip 4 on Willie's ice time.
I don't focus on ice time so much. I mean, I get Willie out there quite a lot. I mean, a lot of key situations, obviously, but, at the same time, I've said this all along. We want to be a good team. Everybody needs to be involved. So I try to get Willie out there as much as I can.
I think it's been settled. You're going to take what I give you.
Yeah, so true.
This
is what Willie's talking about. He's been trying.
He's been trying.
Yeah.
I'm
ready to go in, Coach.
Just
give me a chance.
We have a second one, clip 5 on his asking for more ice time.
I have no problem with it. And I do try to get him more. We talk about it, and he killed penalties last year. He's not killing penalties this year, so it's, a little bit of ice time there. That's off. So, I'll do. What I do is I try to get him out there, if deserved, as much as I can.
See, I have no problem with you asking for a raise.
Right. Doesn't mean you're going to get it. Yeah. And I also think, sorry about your minutes, but on the penalty kill, I would like to put out who I believe are our 4 to 6 best penalty killers. If I don't think you're in that.
I would like him to play more than 17, 12 in a hockey game.
For sure.
If I'm being totally honest, I would like him to play more. He's really good.
I don't disagree with the
forwards.
idea. I actually think Willie's right here. That Willie is his best when he plays more, that there could be more opportunities for him to play more. And even the penalty kill is not terrible for him.
So you're just saying, I don't want to hear you
Correct.
Cry like a baby to the media.
It's game 10, new coach. We're all sorting things out here. Fine to go ahead and ask your coach and say, I think I'm pretty good at this thing that you don't think I'm pretty good at. Just give me a chance to show you. I don't mind that conversation.
So like I said, it's not new news that a star player wants more ice time. It's happened for
Not exactly breaking.
But what is also no new news is that this could go one of two ways. It could kind of sort itself out, or
Snowball.
it could be a bit of a problem here. And a distraction. Yeah. And one of those kind of uncomfortable situations for a lot of players in the dressing room when a guy's not happy. Happens every year on every team somewhere down the road. Sometimes it's a lot more noticeable to us in the media or the fans. Sometimes it's not, but it does happen.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you see this going?
I just think that and I've been wrong before, but I think I know Willie enough to know that he's not going to make a big deal out of it and that he'll hopefully earn his ice time back. He doesn't. I don't know him to be a sulker, but I could see Berube hating the questions from the media. Let's say Berube sees him as an 18.5-minute guy with no PK. This question is going to come up a lot because Willie's best year was a 20-minute guy, and the media is going to be like this.
I've known Craig a long time.
Yep.
I don't think it's going to bother him. He's going to answer. You want me to answer it 50 times? I'm going to give you the same answer 50 ways, but they'll all equal the same.
That's the bottom line. So,
and that's the way he's going to be short and sweet. And it's I think I'm doing that for him. This is what he won't get tiresome of it, but it'll also put him in a position where, he's going to have to work through it. No different than I'm sure he did in St. Louis with Kyper. And I want it a certain way. And if you don't give it to me a certain way, then you're locked in at 17, 18 minutes. Yep. You want to get to 20. This is what I want.
But Willie isn't Kyper. Willie is looked upon he's one of the premier players in the league that's playing 2 minutes less a game.
Right now, he's looking a lot more like Kyper than you think, my friend.
I don't agree. I think
he's not Kyper, but he's looking like a Kyper.
It's a chicken and the egg here, though. He's playing 2 minutes less a game. He's getting punished for stuff. It's I
want more ice time. Play better.
Haven't we been through this already with this guy?
Right.
He had his best year playing a ton. He's one of the 3 best players in the team. Play him more.
It's been around for 100 years. I can play better if you give me more ice time.
Okay.
We'll play better, and I will give you more ice time.
All right. I don't know.
Yeah. No,
It's the wrong guy to pick a fight with, if you ask me.
I do think.
Berube.
Yeah.
No. Nylander. Berube should
because we
listen.
Willie
We just
shouldn't fight him.
spoke earlier this week about accountability.
Yeah, but he's got 10 points in 10 games.
You want to get to a guy more than any other way.
But this is so
you
classic.
Take away the thing that means most to him.
But this is classic. The guy that you're picking on.
It is.
this is not Sheldon Keefe had this accountability where it's like Willie benched. It's like it's the accountability time is when you bench Matthews or you bench Marner, and that's the end of accountability.
Listen,
Willie got a lot out of this guy. Or sorry, Willie. Sheldon got a lot out of that guy.
If we were to have gone back in September and said, if a guy like Craig Berube butts heads with anybody on the roster,
Number one, Willie.
by a country mile, Willie.
Yeah.
Stylistically, because of the way he plays.
Yeah.
Is there any other reason why?
Well, attitude, yeah. And Willie is Willie, by the way, that we're talking about right now. They've played 10 games.
Points.
He got 6 goals.
Yeah.
He's leading the team in scoring.
You could probably, up a little bit.
Right.
That's all I'm asking.
But
do
there are
think
times
that,
when Willie looks all world.
Yeah.
Most nights now,
He's
to me. Most nights. We've gone past the inconsistent Willie. Like, he has his defensive gaps. It's just the found wallet thing. It's understanding that there's give
some
and
nights.
take.
There's some nights there's still that Willie. The drive-bys
way more
earlier.
good than
but you have to make peace with that.
Yes.
You have to make
Sheldon
peace with
had
that from Willie. Because if you don't, you're going to miss out on a great player. And you're going to have him taped to your bench to prove a point that's never going to change him.
Boys, they've all been here for like 8 years. You've won one round. Where is that we have to live with this and you just got to accept it?
Because they've not
won
played
one
him.
round.
They've doing it not playing him. Last year was the first year he played decent ice time.
Yeah.
He's been an 18-minute guy.
And look where it got him.
I'm just saying that, like,
Nowhere.
this is accountability. You gotta find somebody.
I don't think Willie's been bad. I agree that it's just a guy that he's like, I don't like
There's
this
some
guy's-
nights he's all world, and there's some nights he's Willie.
Yes, of course.
But there's okay. We should go because we gotta get to Books. But there's most nights he's all world, and he missed. He flew by. Yeah, no, duh, it's Willie.
100 points last year.
And
We
he
have 98
flies
points last year.
But how many other players in the league fly by? Lots of forwards and wingers who are really highly skilled that fly by, and it's just like I don't want this guy to have getting his minutes taken down because the coach doesn't think he's good enough defensively. I don't care about his defense.
It is the perfect guy that you would expect Berube to come in and be like, that's not.
Anyways,
Okay, we'll take a quick break. We'll get Jason Bukala's thoughts on the Leafs, including sending the lily pad out west. That and more when we return to Real Kyper and Bourne. Am I still holding for TV? Unclear.
Hi, TV.
Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Sammy McKee. So we're just, before the break, we were talking about Willie Nylander's ice time.
Mm-hmm.
So 5-on-5, those minutes are normal. It's just he's not killing penalties anymore. Is that where the ice time's been lost?
I don't know exactly without doing a deep dive here.
That's what I need you for.
Well, he's playing 14.02 at even strength per game.
And how does that compare to Matthews and Marner?
Marner is playing 15.05 and Matthews 14.46. So he is within 40 seconds of Matthews and 50 seconds of Marner. Not far behind at even strength. So presumably then the difference is special teams. It's a big gap. He's 3.5 minutes behind Marner.
Yeah. Now,
Leafs are taking a ton of penalties.
Would that be lost? That would be lost on the specialty teams.
The shorthanded time on ice per game, he is at 30 seconds, while Matthews is killing 2:04 and Marner is killing 2:36. So there's most of your time.
Okay, just to stay on this before we get to Jason Bukala, is Matthews and Marner killing penalties?
Mm-hmm. We haven't talked about that much,
Not
at
much.
all.
Okay, let's get to Jason because he's ready, and then maybe we can follow up on that, on where we are on that.
There
Folks,
he is.
There you are, my friend. How are you?
Hey, fellas. I'm doing great. Happy Halloween, boys.
Really appreciate it. Earlier in the show, I had mentioned because of your scouting background, you'd be the perfect guy to start with the question on how would a scouting staff feel, if not an overall management feel, when you've put time and money and development into a player, albeit a first rounder like Timothy Liljegren was how many years ago? 5?
07.
2017.
2017. And you're hoping that he gets to a place where he can be a key contributor on a team that's driving towards trying to win a Stanley Cup, a contender, and it just doesn't happen. Yes, you got assets back. This wasn't, basically, a giveaway here. But how does that make you feel as a first of all, a scouting staff? Forget about presidents and general managers for a second.
I would argue today, given the state of the Leafs, that it really doesn't matter that much, to be honest with you. I feel like they're turning over a new leaf here, and they're going in a different direction with the type of player that they want to acquire and how they want to manage their draft capital going forward, Kyper. So I don't know that, on balance, when you look at the entire organization, I guess if you go up to the president's chair and you start talking about Shanny and stuff like that, it absolutely, when you put that type of development time into a player, it's not only costly, but how many other opportunities have you missed along the way? That's something that we never discuss. And that's why I always say, never fall too in love with your prospects. And, I don't know if there was other opportunities to trade him over the course of the last number of years in his development cycle, but the previous regime really valued this type of player, and I think they wanted to try and get the most out of him, but the fit wasn't there. And I have to be honest with you, and I did write about it today, I thought he was miscast from the beginning, to be perfectly honest. I've scouted this guy forever, since 2015, and when he was skating on the big ice overseas, guys, as an underage and then a draft eligible, loved his boots, loved how he could get from A to B, wasn't sure about his brain sometimes. He seemed to find ways to take pucks into traffic or he was under duress too often, given the size of the ice sheet and the fact that he skated the way he did. So yeah, I don't know. I think I understand the angle. There's a lot of investment here, boy, and a lot of opportunities to move on from players long before 7 years. And now you see a depressed value of return, I would suggest.
And does that affect some people behind the scenes, like on the scouting staff, who would have pushed for him? Like, is this how scouts end up out of job somewhere if they say, hey, this is a guy that you liked and it didn't work out? Does that hurt?
I think the reflection has already taken place long before this trade was made.
Really?
So I believe that Kyle Dubas and Wes Clark valued a certain type of player, a certain type of style player. 2017, Mark Hunter was on his way out. That's the same time that Wes Clark left my staff in Florida to come to Toronto. And I can tell you from being in a meeting with Wes that the way that their trajectory is and the way that they think about players is a certain type. And that can, I would not hold anybody accountable regionally for those decisions. I'll put it to you that way, Borny. It came from within the room at the hierarchy level. And that can be dangerous. I've been there too. I've had bias. I'm not a perfect scout. Like, I've had bias on players myself, right? I hope not, I guess would be my short answer, because I think it was a different way of thinking.
We're talking to Jason Bukala, Pro Hockey Group and Sportsnet's top analyst when it comes to NHL scouting, former scout himself. So Books, he ends up signing a $3 million contract that was to protect an asset that clearly had value based on the third and the sixth round pick and Benning coming back, I guess. But what happens when you're a scout, you've got a certain player that looks a certain way, but then doesn't mix with a coach, right? And were you surprised that Berube came in, gave him all but one game, and kind of said, no, Timmins is ahead of you, Hakanpää, who's not even played yet, is ahead of you, and so is Myers here. Like, is that part of the equation once upon a time at the draft table where you're like, why am I drafting this guy when I know a coach won't play him, doesn't like that guy?
Yeah. I'd like to sit here and tell you that doesn't happen, but I'd be lying through my teeth. The reality, though, in today's NHL is that the shelf life of the coach is so short that you can't really introduce that into the discussion. I will say this, though, Kyper, when I was in Nashville, when I started my career, Barry Trotz was there forever. And David Poyle had a way, and Jeff Kelty, and he's still there, Jeff Kelty, they had a structure there in place that was going to allow the coach to I guess it was more of a group effort, and the coach had more. I'm not going to say stay at the draft table, but there was a type that everybody agreed that we would draft, or we wanted to play a certain style, and it would fit the coach's wish list, I guess is the best way to put it. As far as Liljegren goes, for me, I was staring at two bodies in the summer when Berube got hired. I was staring at Robertson and I was staring at Liljegren, and I'm thinking to myself, what's not going to work here? Where's something not going to fit? And Robertson so far has earned quite a bit of a runway here with the coach. I'm not surprised though on the Liljegren thing. And let's not forget, Mike Van Ryn and Berube worked together in St. Louis before. Mike's running the D, and they would have had intimate conversations about. Mike knows what Craig likes in a player, so these conversations definitely would have taken place.
So you would have seen players leave your organization in Florida, go other places, and been worried about them becoming great players. Anytime someone leaves your organization, any concern if you're the Toronto Maple Leafs that Liljegren goes out and makes you look silly over his career here?
No.
Okay.
No.
Next question.
Yeah, no. Yeah, exactly. If this was a Craig Berube press conference, it would be move on. But Borny, I wasn't buying the stock from 2015 on the elevated trust value in terms of the way that I think he can process the game at the NHL level on high leverage situations. He spiked on occasion, but this isn't something that personally for me. I mean, I hope he does well. I'm not that guy, but I'm not going to sit here and suggest for a second that I would lose any sleep over it.
Gotcha.
The signing of Jake McCabe, the free agent signings of OEL and Tanev, and now we're looking at a blue line that's, with the exception of Morgan Rielly now, is the only original draft pick. Am I right in saying that?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Can you win a Stanley Cup this way? Or do you, at some point, do you have to draft one or two guys in a scenario where they can carry you in their prime to a Stanley Cup?
Let me put it to you this way, guys. The Leafs, you need to draft and develop. You absolutely need to draft and develop your own players, Kyper, and they have to supplant the veterans along the way, and they have to save you some dough along the way too when you guys start making payments out to higher end players. The model, Toronto's in a very precarious situation. They have to trade for assets to win now. They haven't had a ton of draft capital, or have they? If you look down through their drafting over the last several years, of the last 37 picks that they've made, they have 3 NHL players. And that's a problem. That is a problem. The Florida Panthers just won the Stanley Cup, and from 2016 to 2020, they've got 8 full-time regular players either on their roster or traded out for assets elsewhere. So
that's incredible.
And Dallas is on the cusp of the same, aren't they? So the Florida Panthers were able to trade out Owen Tippett and another first-round draft pick to the Philadelphia Flyers for Claude Giroux. It didn't work that year, but they still didn't miss a beat. Why? Because they had others coming and they had other assets that were filling the cupboard. So Bradshaw Living and his staff are in a tough spot. They want a certain player type. They don't really have any homegrown players that fit the bill, if you will, like their player type. And they're limited on draft capital. So the rate of return on a guy like Liljegren, and he won't be the only one, there'll be others. The rate of return on these guys is depressed. A third and a sixth, but at least they get something.
Yeah, we know at the deadline there's certainly more value on defensemen. Before we let you go, I wanted to ask you wrote an article for Sportsnet.ca on how, am I good to turn the Liljegren page? Are you good on that? On P.L. Dubois, who is really a hot button guy, very polarizing, big, talented, whatever, but frustrates people. He has now gone from the Kings to the Capitals, and you wrote an article about how that's fitting, how he's doing in Washington. Give us that answer.
It's much the same, despite what Spencer Carberry is promoting out there, which is to make sure that the player is very comfortable, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Getting out front of the media saying he's our best player. The optics suggest one thing. The results are very similar to every stop so far along the way. So big body. We all wish he gave a little bit more at any given time. But the underlying numbers, Borny, are very similar to every stop along the way so far. But his line mates have spiked, like the shooting percentage from Tom Wilson, and Connor McMichael certainly found his groove. But Connor McMichael's the exact same version right now as he was last year. So I hope for the player and the organization that this goes well, for the long haul. But he's in the bottom half in their plus minus. He's below 50% in faceoffs. 11 hits. Can you imagine if you're 6'4", 225 pounds? I'd like to gnaw on people's ankles if I was a little guy, but if I'm a big guy like that, I'm running over everybody to make sure I got space all the time. So I know that there's been a lot of accolades thrown his way. I'm not going to sit here right now and say that I'm buying that stock long term either. It's just been okay. We'll see how it goes. Washington's off to a good start. But the coach is definitely making sure that he's uber comfortable right now.
Got to ask you quickly, if we're on the topic of center icemen, I wrote an article today for the Toronto Star about Tavares doing a great job Monday night of holding the fort for the Toronto Maple Leafs on a power play that can't get going, or a slow out of the gate Austin Matthews. But ultimately, are the Leafs destined to a few years ago where they need to pull a trigger and shore up the center ice position once again, i.e. a Ryan O'Reilly type of trade? And if so, Books, who do you envision out there? We had mentioned Brock Nelson of the Islanders, but first of all, your thoughts on that centerman position for the Leafs.
Brock Nelson will be great. A lot of people don't appreciate Brock Nelson. He's got some synergy there with Tavares already. I haven't gone down the rabbit hole yet to start envisioning who that centerman could be, because I'm trying to see when Connor Dewar comes back and where the money is and how all this stuff is going to fit. But that is the exact type of player that I would absolutely go after, because he's proven in high leverage situations, guys like that he can produce. He's been a good playoff performer, and he'd be a responsible target. I'd like to circle back on that as a project, to be honest with you, because I haven't put a lot of thought into it. But listen, power play, center ice, a lot of different things. I read today Nylander wants more ice time. I don't like that when that comes. I don't like when people talk about that, but whatever. He's got to deal with Berube behind closed doors, not me. So good luck, kid. But
my guy.
It's one of those things, right? More depth there, more speed. Boy, did you guys watch New Jersey last night run rampant over Vancouver?
Fast team. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that's a track meet.
Yeah, that is. Before we let you go, wanted to ask, you're doing, you've got a new business venture. You're involved with Drive Hockey Analytics. Is that right?
Yes, Drive Hockey Analytics. I just partnered with them. Thanks for bringing us up. If anybody's interested in NHL Edge on NHL.com, Drive Analytics is a company that essentially mirrors the same sort of scenario. You can run combine-type testing and analysis and player development in homegrown ranks, so minor hockey ranks, major junior ranks, et cetera, and it feeds the eye test with some real hardcore results and numbers, which is, I never thought I'd get to my career I'd be saying some stuff like that, but I'm there, and here we are.
Books, great stuff as always, man. Thanks for joining us.
Always. No problem, boys. We'll see you later. Have a good night tonight.
Thanks, Books. Appreciate it.
That is Jason Bukala, Pro Hockey Group and Sportsnet.
We didn't even mention it's Halloween today. Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Yeah, thanks.
You know what?
You don't care.
I only care the following day.
I knew you were going to say that.
Candy.
The kids' candy?
Yeah. The kids' candy.
I don't know if I can skim the first night. It's tough. They got pretty good eyes on it, but then they start sleeping on it.
Kyper, don't worry. I bought 40 pieces. I'll get 2 people at my door, so I'll bring in 38 pieces for you.
Live in the woods?
Nice.
No, I live on a busy street.
Okay, we're still warming up here on the Real Kyper and Bourne Show. When we return, we get former NHL forward Rob Brown. Life in Edmonton without Connor McDavid. What's that going to be like? And I'll ask you guys in the next, at the top of the next hour. Can Connor still win league scoring title?
Yeah.
Can he win the MVP? Missing 8 or 10 games?
Good question. Good conversation.
We're back. Don't go away. Real Kyper and Bourne, go national. We are live on Sportsnet 650 in Vancouver and Sportsnet 960 in Calgary. Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Sammy McKee. Nice jersey there,
Oh,
Sammy.
man. Mario
I have
Lemieux.
I have a bunch of jerseys, but I brought them in last year and then I forgot to bring them back this
Listen,
year. I have a ton.
Penguin fans who may be in for a very long year appreciate bringing back some good memories for
I don't
them.
know that there's a better looking back of a sweater ever than that name,
66,
that number,
yeah.
that sweater.
It's good.
I mean, that's a hockey jersey, boy.
Oh yeah.
Woo.
Yeah.
Good old DH Gate. Got it off there.
Can
when
he
I was
come
in
back and
college.
play?
Yeah, right?
Yeah, it's like one of the it's not exactly official, but $40.
So, I
Pittsburgh
know.
Penguins.
I know we touched briefly in the first hour about that World Series last night,
Oh yeah.
but like the one thing that all of us felt in 1994, especially when we were up 3-1 against Vancouver, is like we can't blow this for no other reason because it's New York City,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's like, I want to come back to New York City,
Yeah, it's a good city. I'd like to be allowed to be here again.
but I can't if we blow a 3-1. We can't.
It's like, oh, you're a part of that team.
And
Yeah.
that fifth inning,
Yeah.
they're wearing for the rest of their lives.
I will never ever understand why Garrett Cole didn't just run to first base. To cover.
Yeah.
It's pitchers fielding practice. PFP.
Listen.
They talk about it every spring. They do it. It's like fundamentals. Run to the base.
Just thinking about a lot of things, I guess.
Run to the
There's so
base.
much
he
going on.
pitched his heart out.
Hard out. He played. It was awesome. But
Buddy, that K on Otani.
But he
with
had
the
a brain
bases
cramp
loaded,
there.
Like,
brain fart. Tired brain. Bad.
Nothing Rob Brown's ever experienced
never been.
when he was playing with Mario Lemieux. Let's welcome him in, former NHL player. Does a great job covering the Edmonton Oilers now for Ched. Mr. Rob Brown. Brownie, how are you, pal?
I'm good. I was listening to you guys. I had brain farts when I was fully healthy and rested. So
No, the
I
wit.
did watch that fifth inning. That was unbelievable. And you're right. They'll wear that forever. They were that close. That game should have been in hand. And then mental mistakes. You just can't make mental mistakes against great teams. They'll make you pay.
Certainly. And maybe that's a good segue into the Edmonton Oilers and life without Connor McDavid. Now, you tell me they've got a game tonight against the Nashville Predators. The Predators, this underachieving team that many believe that could compete for a Stanley Cup after their moves, is playing them without Connor tonight a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, the Oilers right now have left their easy schedule behind. They played a lot of the lower lights in the National Hockey League non-playoff teams to start the season with a fully healthy lineup. And they struggled. They didn't come out playing as well as they should have. They're about to play a long stretch of games against the top teams in the league. Nashville right now is, I think, 3-0-1 in their last four. They're playing better hockey. This is a team that, with Connor and Leon both healthy, this is a team that the Oilers beat up on consistently and by wide margins. And Connor and Leon light it up. Nashville must be pretty excited to not have to face Connor McDavid, but I don't think the Edmonton Oilers right now can look past any team. I think they have to look in the mirror because this has been a slow start to the season for everyone in this organization, and they cannot afford to throw away any points in this next little while because they got to try and face as many games as they can without Connor and find themselves back into the playoff race.
Brownie, how does this start feel compared to last year when they were much worse in terms of wins and losses? I shouldn't say much worse, but they were worse. How does it feel similar to last year? Like at some point this should start to click?
Well, from a player standpoint, you look at the players, they seem confident. There was a time last year early in the season where they would show the faces on the bench during games, and it was just blank look after blank look.
Mm-hmm.
There was an expectation last year that they were going to go to the Stanley Cup Finals at the beginning of the season. They had the cup or bust mantra going. And when they got spanked 8-1 in the first game of the season, it was like, okay. Then they lost their second, and all of a sudden they were at a loss. I've seen this year with the players, they're still confident. Right now it's, you know what, we're just not getting the bounces. We're just not getting the breaks. Zach Hyman's a great example. Probably should have 7 goals on the season, has 0. So there's a strong confidence that this team is better than what they've shown.
Mm-hmm.
But when you have a slow start, your one fear
is if you have to play an extended period of time without star players. The Oilers didn't have that last year. They started poorly, but then they were healthy all season long and started playing up to their capabilities. Well, they started poorly this year, but now they got a stretch without Connor. And God forbid anything else happens injury-wise in the next few games. So I think the players still have strong belief that they are better than they are. The fan base here, I think because of what they went through last year, there's still a confidence that, okay, they're going to come through this. But I can tell you, with Connor being out, there is a little more concern in oil country right now. I get texts all the time saying, have you heard anything else? Like, do you have inside information, anything like that? I don't, but I do believe that the slow start is magnified by the fact they're going to be missing their star player for a little bit here.
Outside of missing a star player, we look at this roster and it looks a lot different than the one that ended disappointing Game 7. And at what point does it come off of waiting for a good bounce or a good break to, okay, Skinner, not the biggest guy in the world. Arvidsson, not the biggest guy in the world. The blue line got smaller with Travis Dermott and Stetcher. And when do you start looking at the roster and saying, we're not exactly the same as before?
Well, I agree. I don't think the Oilers today are as good as Game 7 Edmonton Oilers. They lost some key players. They lost 3 guys on their back end who are probably right now all stronger than the 3 they brought in. I think this next 10-game segment, the Oilers will have a good idea of where they are as a team, even with or with Connor in the lineup, because they're playing good hockey clubs, teams that they're going to have to challenge for playoff spots, teams that are going to be first or second round or third round opponents in the playoffs. So I think they'll start to see what warts they have, what problems they have that may have been bad bounces, or maybe we're not as big, maybe we're not as fast. And then you see some of the players that left the Oilers, the success they're having. I think Fogel's up to 4 goals, McLeod's up to 5. Broberg's been a stud in St. Louis. So it's the Oilers, I think, in the next 10 games will start to realize where they are as a team. The GM will look at it and say, okay, 20 games in, what do we have to do to improve our team to get back to where we want to be? And having Connor out and having to call players up, that takes away from the money that they're trying to save in cap space for a move later in the season. I always thought that a move for a defenseman, a top 4 defenseman, would come in February, early March. But if the Oilers struggle over the next 10 games, maybe that move has to be made earlier.
Brownie, what do you make of being the same player and the puck just not going in for you? And Hyman obviously is the best example, but the underlying numbers for this team where it's like they're first in the NHL in O-zone possession. They have the puck in the other team's end the whole game. I think they're first in some of these other categories, expected goal shot attempts, whatever it may be. They're doing pretty good. It's just not going in the net. I mean, how much can you chalk up to luck? Obviously, there's some of it, and I think maybe it's a lot. Well, what do you think?
Well, I think at the beginning of a lot was bad luck. There was a game where Leon had a wide open net. Puck came to him. He hit the post. Like, he was literally by himself.
Yeah.
Zach Hyman's had 2 or 3 wide open nets where he's put it over the net or he shot it wide. I think early in the season, it was bad luck. I think as the season moves on, and I was a goal scorer, when they don't go in, then you start putting more pressure on yourself. And then you start, I don't know if it's panicking, but you start getting a little itchy and you shoot a little quicker, or you pass instead of shooting because, okay, the goalie's in my way, I got to move it this way. So you start second guessing yourself. The problem I see for the Oilers, I do believe the offense will come around. This power play is too good with or without Connor here. The Hyman could have 7 goals this year, and they're eventually going to go in for him. Nugent Hopkins is going to be better. Leon's going to be better. The problem I see is this Oiler team, when the puck doesn't go in because of puck luck or great goaltending, they're not winning 2-1 or they're not winning 3-2. They're still giving up the 4 or 5 goals against. Yeah. And that, to me, is the biggest problem here is they're making big mistakes. And if you're not scoring, you buckle down, play better defensive hockey, and you win the game 2-1. And eventually the goals will come. But right now, I mean, they gave up 6 the other night to Columbus. And, yeah, they had some bad luck, the Oilers did in that game. But Columbus still scored 6 goals on you.
Yes.
And it wasn't, you can't hang them all on Stuart Skinner. So they're giving up too many grade A chances. So until the puck luck turns offensively, this team has to be a better defensive team. And they were last year. They just haven't been so far this year.
You describe Broberg as a stud in St. Louis, and I'm just wondering now, is it just a foregone conclusion that if the Oilers could go back and take a mulligan like we've often have on the first tee?
No.
Would they do it, or is it to the point where let's see if they didn't envision paying him $5 million a year, let's see what they fill the gap in between now and the trade deadline. But you just mentioned earlier, if the slow start continues, they're going to have to fill that gap in a heck of a lot sooner.
Well, it's funny. I just read a tweet that Jim Matheson, Hall of Fame sports writer, put out, and he said, more or less along the lines of, a paraphrase is, are the Edmonton Oilers not going to go out and get a defenseman to play in the second pairing for about the same amount of money as Broberg?
Ugh.
And he's going to be probably the same, if not might not be as good as Broberg, because that's what they're looking for now, as a second pairing defenseman. And for someone that's second pairing, that's probably $4 or $5 million a year. So yeah, I think they were caught off guard with the Broberg signing, with the offer sheet. They envisioned him being here. He was supposed to play with Darnell Nurse this year. He was really good for the Oilers in the playoffs. And I think everything that happened after that offer sheet was kind of trying to stem the bleeding. Like, how can we stop the bleeding and somehow get this thing going in the right direction? So yeah, I think they would love the opportunity to rethink that. 4.5 is a lot of money for him, but if he turns out to be what St. Louis thinks he is, I think the Oilers would be really happy paying a guy in the second pairing right now 4.5, knowing that he's 25 years old or whatever he is, and he's got another 7-8 years in the organization.
How have the new guys been for the team this year, specifically Jeff Skinner and Arvidsson up front, who I thought were both, well, I shouldn't say I didn't love the Skinner one. I liked Arvidsson quite a bit, but it's not quite going in for him yet either, is it?
Well, it isn't. Arvidsson's got 3 points on the season. They all came in one game.
Yeah.
I love his work ethic. I really do. And the last 2 playoffs, when he was with LA, he was LA's best player against the Oilers.
Mm-hmm.
He plays like he's 6'4" when he's probably 5'8". But offensively, it hasn't been there for him. Skinner's been good. He's contributed. He probably deserves a couple more goals.
Mm-hmm.
He has been good. He had a really off preseason that people were really worried, but he's probably been the most consistent of all the forwards for the Oilers. It's on the back end where it's been a struggle. Dermott and Stetcher have been flip-flopping in and out of the lineup. Emberson, who they wanted to be in the top 4, he's now as the number 6 defenseman. He's been in and out of the lineup. So it's one of those things right now. They're not scoring goals. They're not defending goals. Their power play is not very good. The penalty killing's awful. They're not getting the big save when they want it. Every coach's challenge goes against them. There's been no puck luck for it. This is like their team schlep rock right now. They got the rainy cloud over top of them all day long. So eventually it's got to turn. And maybe the injury to McDavid will do it. Leon Draisaitl has won a Hart Trophy in the National Hockey League, and it was the year that Connor McDavid got hurt, and Leon put the team on his back. They need Leon to do that again over the next little stretch.
Speaking of a Hart Trophy, how many games does Connor need to miss before you say he's out of the running for a Hart or an Art Ross Trophy? 50? 60?
Well, yeah, if he's got 60 games left, he's capable of 2 points a game. So there's 120 right there, and he's already got 10. So that's 130 points. So he can afford 10 games, and I still think he's got a good chance of winning the scoring title. He's that good. And the thing with Connor McDavid, he gets better as the year moves on.
Mm-hmm.
He always struggles early in the season, and struggle means point to a point and a half a game. As the season goes on, he gets better, and he'll be rested. And I think that's scary for the rest of the National Hockey League. If Connor McDavid gets a little bit of a rest at the beginning of the year, you can never count him out. He's the best in the world for a reason.
Yeah. How do you like the rest of the Pacific Division? I think going into the season, people thought Calgary not going to be great, and maybe they won't be, but they had a good start. Vegas probably better than most expect. What are your thoughts so far?
I think Vegas is good.
Yep.
Vegas will always be good. I've got a newfound respect for Jack Eichel over the last couple of years in
Same.
Vegas. The way he plays, he's both ends. He's good. Mark Stone, fantastic. So I think Vegas and Edmonton will fight for the division during the regular season. I think Vancouver without Demko, that's a big loss. He's their MVP. And with Pettersson being pedestrian, I mean, that's a lot of money tied up in a guy that's supposed to be your number one center who right now is struggling to keep up as a third line. So I think it's a 2-team race for the division. I think Vancouver will be your third place team. The one team that surprised me is the LA Kings. I didn't pick them to make the playoffs. And they've started better than I thought they would. I thought there would be 3 teams from the Pacific in, and I thought 5 teams would come from the Avalanche Conference or the Avalanche division. So I don't think that I think the Pacific Division is probably the weakest of the 4 divisions in the National Hockey League, which is good if you're an Edmonton Oilers fan.
Calgary took a bit of a hit the last few games, but even the fact that they got off to such a good start must have surprised you a little bit.
It was. Their work ethic is fantastic. They've played the Oilers, they beat the Oilers, and they were good. Anderson's having a fantastic year. I like Uyghur on the back end. Huberdeau started well. They got a bunch of young kids that play with some grit. They were physical, very physical against the Oilers' best players in that game. I mean, I know that Edmonton Oilers fans can't stand the Calgary Flames, but to me, the Battle of Alberta is better if both Calgary and Edmonton are playoff teams. The games mean more. So I hope Calgary hangs around and plays meaningful games as this season moves on, because then just every time Edmonton and Calgary plays each other, it's that much more important and there's that much more intensity.
Brownie, we were talking on the first half of the show with Jason Bukala about like scouting and players getting drafted and then developing into what they're going to become, and kind of when you've seen what they're going to become in the league. Timothy Liljegren was the topic, for a reason. He's just got traded out of Toronto. I was looking at your stats while we're sitting here. I mean, the 1 year in junior, you had 212 points, 76 goals, 212 points in one season, 60-some games, guys. The year before, you had 100. Anyway, so you made it to the NHL. You had a 50-goal season. How long did it take you? I died for 1 minute. I'm back. How long did it take you to feel like you were the player you're going to be in the NHL?
Well, if anyone's ever seen me skate or play defensive, they'll know that I was only going to be an offensive player in the National Hockey League. I was put in a position for success in Pittsburgh when I got there. I had big numbers in junior, and my first game I got to play with Mario. There was an injury. I missed the first 3 or 4 games of the season. Bob Airy got hurt, and I played on a line with Mario. First game, 2 shots, 2 goals. So I was more or less set as an offensive player. Having said that, my skating eventually did not improve. I went to the minors and I had to come back as a different player. I came back as a third line player and played 3 more years. So I had to reinvent myself. I think sometimes situation dictates it. I know that both Ray Ferraro and Dean Everson both went to Hartford. They're both great offensive players. Dean Everson turned himself into a checking line forward and a penalty killer because he realized that in that situation, he wasn't going to be able to be a top 6 forward. Mm-hmm. So you gotta realize what your situation is on the team you're with, and then you got to accept your role. And a lot of players don't want to do that, and they'll fight it. And if they fight it, they find themselves out of the league and they find themselves in Europe. So realize who you are, and having an honest conversation with yourself will probably allow you to fulfill a dream of playing in the National Hockey League. Fighting it will probably have a long European career instead.
Well said.
Speaking of scoring goals and having pressure to score goals, you mentioned Zach Hyman. Earlier this year, we've heard from 2 star players, highly paid players in Zibanejad in New York, and recently today or the other day, Willie Nylander here in Toronto saying, I need more ice time. I want more ice time. I want to stay more active. And how did you go about it when you felt like you weren't getting the minutes that helped you support you to score goals, or one of your teammates? How would you have handled it back in your day when you felt like, hey, you want me to score goals? Put me out there more.
Well, it's true. Scoring is hard in the National Hockey League. And if you're not on the first power play unit, and if you're not playing with, one of the top players, you're not going to be a 30-goal scorer or a 40-goal scorer. You watch a lot of video. You try to talk to the assistant coaches. Usually go to the assistant coaches first because they're the sounding board and they'll go to the head coach for you. But Kyper, when you and I played, we didn't get to complain. We didn't get to talk to the press or the coach. More or less, yes sir, no sir. Because if we would have said something and spoke up, we probably would have found ourselves in the minors. But it is tough and
different today. But it is different today, right, Brownie? I mean, the players
100%.
feel they feel freer to go and express themselves, even if it is through the media.
Oh, 100% it is. And, well, I mean, first of all, when we played, I know in Pittsburgh, we had one beat reporter. So I'm going to go talk to Dave and say, hey, Dave, they're not playing me. Play me more. Whereas nowadays, there's all of the social media, all the podcasts, so there's way more media. So there's a lot more pressure on a player. More so if you're in Toronto, in Edmonton, in Pittsburgh, I could go 12 games without a goal. No one would know because I'd be behind high school football on the weekend in the sports things. So it is tough, and you were quiet. But nowadays they come out and talk about it, and a lot of it is money. What are you going to do? You're paying a guy $10, $11 million. You're not getting rid of him. You can't. And he'll come out and say, and the pressure is way different now than when we played, I believe.
Last one from me. We had Steve Valiquette on earlier in the week, and we were talking about goalie save percentage. It's way down this year. It's like 897. I actually think it's 898 today. But the league average last year was 903. League average 7 years ago was like 915. What's your personal theory? Why are shooters starting to win back some ground in the battle with goaltenders?
The skill set is way higher. Yeah. Way higher nowadays than when I played. I'm on the ice every day here in Edmonton with Sports Academy kids.
Oh, cool.
And these kids, they shoot better than I did. And they're in grade 4, grade 5. I had years ago, I worked with an academy, and we had Dylan Gunther in it. And I was out there doing skills with them. And they said, okay, you're going to take these forwards down there, work with them on quick releases, quick shots. So I went down there and I said, okay, you guys have a competition. 5 shots, and then the winner, I'll take the winner in the final. Dylan Gunther won. Then he goes 5 shots in the final. He scores 5 straight. And I just put my stick down. All right, there's nothing I can do with this kid. He's
finished. The cake is baked.
He's U15. This kid, I was just indoors. We're doing indoor stuff shooting. And these kids can all go bar down. They can pick spots. All the stuff that when I played, Mario or Gretzky would try to score from behind the net where he tried to bounce it off a goalie and in. They're all doing it now. There's that little teeny spot where a goaltender kind of leans. They're all going short side, top shelf now. In my era, there was 2 guys on a team that could do it. Now you got 4th line guys that are capable of it. And Kyper, when we played, the 4th line guys usually weren't as skilled as they are nowadays.
There were exceptions.
I don't think today there's anybody going back to the bench and someone saying to them, "That's a stupid shot."
Right.
True.
Oh yeah.
And that's all we had. It's like, you're never going to score from there. And now it's like, they all think they're going to score from anywhere.
Yeah.
And it is true. And they can. And they're picking, they're standing in the corner. Well, last year in the playoffs, Zadorov scored on Skinner from the board's corner. He was number 5 defenseman, and he ripped it top shelf.
But why wasn't the reverse VH invented when we played? Just give us a chance to go top shelf. It wasn't there.
Well, we weren't allowed to take top shelf shots in practice either. I had Tommy Barrasso was my goalie. If you didn't hit him in the pads, he was yelling at you. So we weren't allowed to.
Waist down.
The audacity to go high could hurt someone.
Well, listen, we'll see what happens starting tonight for the Edmonton Oilers with the Nashville Predators. But the world without Connor McDavid starts tonight. Hey, Brownie, thanks for doing this, pal.
Thanks a lot, guys. Take care.
Thanks, Brownie. Related
Rob
to
Ram.
that Dylan Gunther story, I was a skating coach at the Okanagan Hockey School, and in my group was Shea Weber. He was 14. I would have been 18 or something.
Did he bomb it?
We literally should have switched spots. I should have gone in the drills, and he should have been the instructor. It was so evident he was the best athlete out there.
And hammering the puck.
Yeah, oh my God. And he skated, and he was just huge.
And he'll be inducted in the Hall of Fame next week.
He shot one
2 weeks.
He shot one through the net in the Olympics.
Yeah, my God. Yeah, so Elliot Friedman has an article today that talks about his billet family, who family friends of mine from Kelowna. He billeted with Barry and Ingrid, and they also had Mikael Backlund, 1,000 NHL games, Luke Shen, 1,000 NHL games, Tyler Myers, 1,000 NHL games, Shea Weber, obviously Hockey Hall of Fame. They were the billets. You're like,
they're good cooks, man.
Ingy does a good job.
I'm just looking at that 88, 89 roster because you did what I love bringing up junior stats. Thanks, Barney, for
212 points.
But so Rob had 115 points. That's the year that Mario Lemieux had maybe the greatest statistical season in NHL history with 199 points in 76 games, 85 goals. Like, that's
What is that?
obscene. But Paul Coffey.
That's in the NHL, by the way.
Yes, this is Paul Coffey on that team had 113 points in 75 games, and he was a -10. There were so many goals happening. Oh my God! Like
For goals worth 2?
action.
That's wild.
I played against Rob Brown. Like, we all wanted to kill him.
Yeah,
Just kill him. Just
He was
cocky.
Yeah.
Like, because he was
Oh, and
a
he'd
really
run his
good-
mouth, right?
really good goal scorer.
Yeah.
He could put points up.
Yeah.
And when you were head and shoulders above everyone else there and did a couple of windmills in front of your bench.
If you follow our friend Sean McIndoe, Down Goes Brown. His name is Down Goes Brown because
of Rob
the call
Brown.
when Rob Brown lost a fight to I forget who. Somewhere in Toronto, I presume it's center ice, but Brownie tells that story pretty well. He was on Chicklets this week, too, Rob Brown.
Spectacular guy.
Really
Yeah, he
game
does
time?
a great job.
Game time?
Yeah, we're glad he joins us.
Yeah.
Game time. It's game time. Presented by Bet365. Visit the app for the odds.
No more baseball.
Find out why it's ever ordinary at Bet365. Must be 19 plus. Ontario only. Please play responsibly. So, like you said, no more baseball for me to talk about in this segment, but I did have to go to the NFL because I looked at who's playing tonight.
J-E-T.
And it is
Jets,
Justin
Jets,
Bourne's pathetic New York Jets that are playing on Thursday Night Football tonight. And they are -130 favorites against the Houston Texans. I guess Vegas thinks that they need it. Houston's banged up. They got some injuries on offense. I got to tell you, if you bet the New York Jets as a
At
-130
-130.
favorite, you are a sicko. Give me the Houston Texans as an underdog, +110.
But hold on. This is like when the Ottawa Senators get hot in the final month and a half of the
Maybe.
season.
Maybe.
And like get a worse pick for it. That's what the Jets are about
That's
to do.
when any team gets hot.
Right.
Down
Already
the stretch.
eliminated.
Speaking of insane favorites, the 3-7-1 Pittsburgh Penguins are -190 favorites tonight on home ice against the Anaheim Ducks. Sure, the Ducks stink, but I'm telling you something else, boys. So do the Penguins. They stink. So, that's two stinky teams playing in a toilet bowl. Give me the Anaheim Ducks as a +160 underdog tonight in Pittsburgh. And the last one I have, hey, you said no when the Columbus Blue Jackets beat your beloved Islanders. And the last one I have for you tonight, Jared McCann, goal against the Leafs tonight, +220. That
Book it.
is definitely happening. The man that Kyle Dubas let go for Justin Hall. And that was game time. Presented by Bet365. Visit the app latest odds and find out why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 19 plus. Ontario only. Please play responsibly. He'd look good in the middle six.
Sure would.
He's a 25, 30 goal scorer.
At least, right? He's
Right.
big, fast.
They signed him to a $5
He's
million
flawed, but-
contract a little while ago. And he's
Scored 29 last year, 40 the year before.
40.
He had a crazy shooting percentage year that year, I remember. But even last year, he's almost scored 30. This year, he's got 14
first
points in
power
10
play.
games. Yeah, he's probably a little better than Justin Hall.
Kerfoot.
Kerfoot they kept.
No, it was Kerfoot.
I thought it was Hall that they
No.
they protected
Well,
Hall
they
and Kerfoot.
They kept both of them, so
Yes.
one of them could have been. But there was something on
Feel.
the math there with 5
Yeah, it
forwards
was
and
bad
3D, I
math.
forget.
That's what it was.
Yeah, it didn't math out, did it?
They are better, Seattle, are they not?
They're better. I like Montour as an ad for them. I like Chandler
And he's not
Stevenson as
playing
an ad.
tonight.
I do love Chandler Stevenson. Way too much money, but I do love him as a hockey player.
I'm
Way too many years.
not sure that they needed to climb that high to pay him.
Yeah, what was it?
5,
I
5.25,
think it was more than
7?
that.
maybe 6.
6.
Tell us.
I'm Googling it. What is it? What's the new website called?
Cap wages.
Cap wages.
He makes 6.25 per year.
Boys, that's not right.
For how long?
I like him,
5.
Great agent.
but he's not.
Jeez.
He's not.
7 years times
Great
6.25.
agent.
How old is he? He's got to be old. He's already 30.
Yeah, and he's not he's great. He's a great skater, but he's not the hardest working guy.
Is that right?
I will say, watching when I went to that Vegas game when I was down there last year, him live was the only time I've ever seen him live. His skating was mind-blowing live.
Yeah.
Like, he flies, effortless stride, really gets around the ice well.
The guy they love and could easily be the captain of that team, Eberle's the captain, but is Brandon Montour. They've loved him
He had a hat trick.
He's the
this
man.
week.
from day one.
Cool dude.
And that guy, they say, in the gym, in practice, never takes a day off.
Yeah.
And that's where, that's value.
Yeah, that is absolutely. They have Shane Wright playing as the third line center this year, which is interesting. In Seattle, there, like he's kind of found his way a little bit. These guys are taking time. Like Lafreniere took years, and all of a sudden it's like, damn, this guy's a player.
And Byfield, same difference. If this guy keeps getting stronger and gains a little bit more confidence, then he could have a breakout year coming out. I don't know if he'll ever be a flashy or score like Lafreniere,
right?
But he could be a really important piece still for
Tanev
Seattle.
versus Tanev tonight. Boys.
Oh, the Tanev bros.
Yeah.
He was, but the thing with Wright, like he was supposed to go number one, right? With Slav, and then Slavkovsky goes, and then was it 2 or 3 other? Was he 5th or 4th overall? I can't remember.
I feel like 4th.
But he was
mugged.
Wasn't he staring at the table?
Which I liked at the time.
I loved it.
But
Loved
like,
it.
it hasn't panned out since.
Yes.
Anyways.
Okay. Did you wrap up game time for us already?
I did already, buddy. Yep.
Okay. All right. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll get into some news and notes. 7 games on tap. We'll go through a few of them and get you ready for a big night in the National Hockey League. That and more when we return to Real Kyper and Bourne. We're back on the Real Kyper and Bourne show. It was a pretty ugly loss for the Vancouver Canucks against the New Jersey Devils. But, I mean, the big picture is like they're okay in the standings. It's not like they're Boston right now scraping the bottom of the barrel in their division. So how concerned are you about, let's start with Pettersson.
I'm just watching the wrist shot that's been all over the internet last night. Just a really passive effort. I don't know. I see people in Vancouver's market tweeting things like, can we just let him be? Can you just let him play? Or like, maybe he's hurt. Or I think fans have every right to, not like the way he's playing compared to how they know he can play. That pressure is a natural result of they've loved him, they've paid him, they've committed to him, and he's not playing well. I don't know. Like I don't think there's some big magical thing that's going to change. He's got to figure it out, and confidence comes in waves.
Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Sammy McKee. This hour of Real Kyper and Bourne brought to you by Bet365. Sammy, a lot of people are speculating, and our own Elliot Friedman, I think, wrote about this or talked about it on his 32 Thoughts that he's too sensitive, or he's basically, is maybe bothered by that marketplace. Shouldn't have this all been like kind of put to bed?
Have you,
when you signed your big contract?
Have you ever heard anyone suggest anything like that he was like pressured into signing a contract, or like that maybe he didn't want to, but he had to take the money, and when that comes up, it's like you can figure it out after you get the money?
I don't know if that's the case here, but there must have been some athlete in some environment that said, I don't love it here, but if they're going to throw me that type of money, man, I'm taking it and running with it.
Yeah, and if I don't like it, we can figure it out after that.
Like, I got to be honest with you, man. I thought it was touch and go before they announced his big contract.
I didn't think he was
I thought he could leave.
Mm-hmm.
That the feeling was that maybe he needs just a quieter environment for him. And Vancouver ain't it. Toronto ain't it. Montreal ain't it. Edmonton ain't it.
I would love to know what the numbers are literally since the day he signed the contract forward. Because he hasn't had nearly the same sting in his game.
I can't speak to the last few games, but the last I looked into it, which is about a week ago for a Hockey Central show, he had played 39 games and had 1 goal. 1 even strength goal, sorry. So I don't know what the actual numbers are. I just remember that standing out.
He's 4 points this year through 9 games. He's a -3. I've watched a couple of their games. It's just not.
And he can shoot the pill.
Oh, he can fly.
He can even one-time it, too.
The one-timers, but like the zip
like
that
Kyle
he used
Connor,
to
right?
have on his shot is no longer there. Rick Talk had talked about maybe opponents knowing this, taking away his ability to one-time a puck, and
But hey,
Time to get his feet moving more.
to me, do you see any stylistic comparison to Kyle Connor? I see Pettersson as a guy who can be more physical than Connor, but the same sort of like creative dashing. Maybe Connor's more of a pure goal type guy than Pettersson. Pettersson's a little bit more of a disher too, or a little bit more well-rounded, I should say. But I'm watching Kyle Connor right now. He has 9 goals in 10 games. People know he can score.
He's firing it in.
People know he can score.
Yeah.
They're taking it away too.
Oh, man, he could zip.
Last night, he flew by the Detroit D and caught a pass at a spot where someone without confidence just shoots it and he catches it, takes it to his backhand across the net. Like, it's confidence for me. And one guy has it, one guy doesn't.
Wonder who you put on the line with him and Matthews to pass to those two guys. Can be a pretty dangerous line. USA.
Is that gonna? I mean, you think they'll play together?
Montembeault will be fine.
Montembeault's gonna be fine. Bennington's okay. Hofer's gonna be fine.
Anyways, but if I'm a Vancouver fan, and I'm sure there's Vancouver fans listening to this right now on Sportsnet 650, I would be panicking about him.
What are you gonna panic?
Because I'm a fan, and that's what fans do. You've signed this guy to a massive contract, boys. Like, it's
Are you
huge.
saying panicking that he would leave, that he'd want out?
No, that like he's just
The bigger
not the same guy since he signed the contract.
The bigger concern is it's bled from the end of last season into this season.
Exactly. You'd think it's a summer off, you refresh, you're back, you got a good team, you're ready to go, and he just looks exactly the same as he looked in the playoffs. Like, exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I don't know, man. I'd be concerned, big time. If I'm a fan,
I think concern is legit for him right now.
For sure.
Anyways.
All right, your buddy Freddie Anderson in Carolina hurt again.
Yeah, he's hurt again.
What's his problem? Lower body.
Yeah, lower body. Week to week.
So, Kip.
Week to week.
Week to week. Is he on the ice?
Week to week is like could mean 4 to 6.
Yeah.
We're
all week to week.
You wrote an article yesterday in which you mentioned something about the franchise valuations. Just a passing comment about the Leafs being worth $3.66 billion now, the most valuable franchise in the NHL, up $1 billion year over year, which doesn't make sense. It's like when houses go up. It's like, what are your thoughts on every franchise in the NHL
weird.
now being worth $1 billion, which has never happened in the history of the league before?
Yeah. Well, great for owners.
Yeah. Gary's done his job.
Sucks for the players because they don't get to participate in any of that.
No.
Right?
You always.
I'll tell you
What?
You'll never ever not be a player.
Thank you.
I love it.
Yes.
Like, that's just the first thing that comes to your mind.
Sucks.
Yeah. Give me that cut.
And the reason why those numbers are going so far up this quickly is because of the deal you cut yourselves way back when. But that's for another story, another day.
Let's. I want to talk about a couple of the teams, the biggest risers and fallers in franchise valuations. The Chicago Blackhawks fell to. They're now behind the Los Angeles Kings, who are the 5th most valuable franchise. That surprise you at all?
No, not really, because it wasn't too.
LA's LA.
It wasn't too long ago. Pre Jonathan Toews, pre Pat Kane, pre Stanley Cups, modern day Stanley Cups, that they were having trouble filling the building.
Mm-hmm.
So that market's clear. You give me stars, you give me cups, and we'll bring that value right back up.
The biggest jump in franchise valuation by percentage was Boston, which is 50%. But then right behind them at 49 was the New York Islanders, the Dallas Stars, and the New Jersey Devils. Islanders' new building is a big one, right? That's probably part of their franchise valuation. Boston, 50% more valuable this year than last year.
I think you can definitely look at new buildings and where the revenue's coming from and stuff like that. But when the dust settles, it's just really a bunch of rich billionaires going,
it's worth this now.
I want to get into this club.
Yeah.
I want to get in the club. Like, we have clubs losing money. So you tell me how anything can be worth $1 billion if you're losing money. But that's
but
that's not
Uber, and
that's not what it's all about.
Yeah.
What it's all about is strictly what one person's willing to pay to get into this club. And now they're attracting. There's never been more billionaires in this world, and they continue to come on strong. And then they get bored and they're like, I want one of those shiny things. And there's only 32 of them.
What's the Utah? What are they?
Utah, I was just going to say, Utah is up 4 from dead last to 28th. They're 78% more valuable this year than last.
Yeah, that tracks.
That tracks. They're $1.14 billion. And the more concerning one is the Jets fell 3 spots. Still 19% more valuable than they were last year, though. So, you know, if you're Bettman, you're going, that's a win. But
if Winnipeg is going to sell their team for over $1 billion, it's going to be because someone's going to move them. It's not because they're going to sell it for $1 billion and keep them there. And,
it's the value of the franchise, right? That's what a franchise is worth.
Watch their attendance down 25, 30% and non-sellouts.
So what's the Leafs?
The Leafs being up 38% at $3.66 billion ahead of the Rangers, who are at $3.25 billion.
Can you imagine what that number would have been if the Leafs actually got past one round
ever
in 10 years?
Well, I see past.
Right?
So top 5 is Leafs,
Toronto, the Rangers, Montreal
Habs.
Canadiens, Boston Bruins, Los Angeles Kings now ahead of Chicago and Edmonton, who sit at 6 and 7.
So
Edmonton at 2.4.
The real money has to be made in postseason where you don't pay the players. That's where, like the Edmonton Oilers, I don't know what that number was. When
How much
it was
money
all
they made in
said
the
and done.
playoffs last year?
Yeah.
Listen, I golf with a few boys out in Lacombe, Alberta, and I know personally in that clubhouse they gave $1 billion each. So
Right.
they were there a lot.
dumping money in.
In Canada, like one game could attract $20-30 million to a team.
Right.
One game.
And they had
In a Stanley Cup
how many
final.
home games did they had last year?
Many.
13, 14, something like that.
Average price of a ticket could be $1,500 now. It's like, you going to see the Beatles?
So
I would pay $1,500 to see all of the Beatles alive.
Yes.
yeah, I might consider it. So you look at all these valuations, and you know all these teams that are the most worth the most are the most popular, right? So the most fans. I just don't understand. I'll never understand the hard cap. There's no other.
Kip can tell you all about it.
I know, but there's no other league that, like, don't you want your best teams to be able to spend and be able to be the most, like, you know, the most popular teams to be the best and have the most money?
You think it would be good for the league?
Yeah.
Where the most interest is, you'd want them to be more successful, like Yankees, Dodgers.
The Rangers should be able to spend $140 million on the roster. The Leafs should be able to spend $200 million on the roster. Like, I've never understood where it's like they all have to be the same level of mid, and you can't pay guys and you can't keep them in the same place. It's like, don't you want your most popular franchises to be the most successful? I've never understood it. It's like salary cap and like you got the luxury tax in the NBA, competitive something tax in the MLB. NFL's a weird thing with the cap. Like, I just don't get it. I just don't understand. I'll never understand it. And Kyper could be like, this and that.
It's Bettman trying to protect the franchise valuations of these lower teams and
I don't know. It's
give them a chance.
hard to argue.
I have an idea.
When you think that you could sell like your worst franchise ever for over $1 billion right now.
And can I say that
something's worked for them?
you go the luxury tax and you have to pay into the luxury tax. So would MLSE pay into a luxury tax to be able to spend $120
But they have
million?
in the past. There has been taxes like
in the cap era?
MLSE, yes, in the cap era, they've stroked checks that ended up with Nashville, right? The lesser teams.
Oh, like you mean like
it's revenue sharing?
Revenue sharing.
Oh, I know, but
Right?
I'm talking about being able to spend more on the Leafs, or maybe
No,
spending more
that's
on the
that's
Rangers.
capped. That's never going to happen.
He wants to pay the league $10 million to spend an additional $10 million.
But who does that hurt?
Yeah.
I guess just the small market teams with no money, which should be punished for not trying to be as competitive.
Move them to somewhere where it's popular.
But not only that, if they're all,
you're not wrong.
I know I'm not wrong. It drives me crazy.
And if they're all billionaires right now, what do they care?
You're right. The salary cap right now is a joke.
If they're willing to spend $1.5 billion on the Ottawa Senators or the Anaheim Ducks, then make them spend too.
What's Giannis make for Milwaukee? $60 million a year or something? He almost makes the whole team's cap.
Like, what's his name? The guy from the Sixers that never plays, Joel Embiid, just signed literally a $300 million contract, and he
for
plays
4 years.
Yeah, and he plays
a 4-year contract.
He plays twice a year. Like I don't know. I think the luxury tax. And I'm saying as a fan of a popular team, but That's
They tried. The players tried everything, but this is the way the
Can't go
owners
back.
wanted it. They're not going back.
Start their own league. Road
great.
league.
Right.
live hockey.
Where's Versteeg? Clever NHL, pal.
Yeah.
Launch it.
But it's just you're not serving your fans. Anyways, we don't need to keep going. It's been a hobby horse of mine forever. But the Leafs got paid $1 billion to have a bank put their name on the team. They can only spend 80 on the team.
All right, you're done.
Okay, I'm done.
Nichuskin has likely to join practice before he's actually cleared for reinstatement to play games.
I'm nervous
Yeah.
about a guy that's failed a couple of times to, stay on this straight and narrow.
But I mean,
And you know more about this.
Yeah.
And
I do. I
their
get
ability
defensive about this. It's, what's the guy's going to try? He's going to come back and play and try to be around.
Yeah.
If you're Colorado and you.
Some guys need, I would imagine, some guys can do it after 4 weeks, and some guys need a year, and some guys never can.
Yeah.
So what do you do? Just throw them back
Well,
in
that's
the
what I'm
fire?
asking you. You just want to tell him to get a job.
No,
or in
I'm
construction?
not
What should
the
he do?
expert. I'm not the expert.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that, he's failed once when you've brought him back.
Yes.
And this isn't going to work 9 to 5. This is professional sports where it's a different beast.
I mean, there's doctors and lawyers dealing with it too, right? It's all high risk, and it's important for their companies that these people be able to do it.
Just, I hope they put him in a position to succeed. That's my only point. And after that, I'm not an expert.
No, and I hear you, and that's totally fair. It is obviously I'm a guy rooting for him.
Yeah,
to
we're all rooting for him.
Sort it out. And if you're Colorado, it's like there are a few players on earth like Nichuskin. He is a big monster.
Beast.
He was their leading goal scorer in playoffs before falling off the rails. So, I don't blame them for saying, God, he doesn't make a ton of money compared to his value. Let's see what he can do. And
they need him bad.
And you have to think.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing too, is they need him back.
Oh yeah, they need this to work.
It's a professional, it's a professional sports franchise. You have to think that they're going to do everything in their power
Right, to
put
protect
the
him.
the right people in charge, talking to him and sticking with them and giving him the support he needs. It's a major league operation. You think they'd treat him as such,
I
tough.
would be curious to know what they put in place. Maybe we should talk to someone from Colorado and just be like, what does this support look like for a guy like that? I don't know.
I also mentioned in my article today that I wrote for the Toronto Star that there's going to be some pressure now on the Boston Bruins to get going here between now and
How are we talking about
American-
this? 5:52. Yes.
American Thanksgiving.
You mentioned
It is unacceptable right now. Their start, especially with their commitments in free agency, and to Swayman that
Zadorov, Lindholm, Swayman all got paid.
looking at the standings, and you're tied for the basement in the Atlantic Division. So
the conversation we're not having that we're
ton of
beating around
pressure.
is about Montgomery, who is
he's
gonna
got to
be
turn
under
this thing
fire.
around.
And you just wrote the word Quenneville, not about he could take that job,
No,
but just that he's a name who's
that
out
he-
there.
He's a name that's out there, and we saw Stan Bowman end up in Edmonton, and he's free and clear now. And if there's struggling teams going into Thanksgiving, that name is going to pop up.
Red
And
Wings
that is-
too.
That's outside.
Yeah, good one.
That's out of saying that the Boston Bruins are considering him right now. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is he'll probably be the first name that kind of comes up.
Having that name out there adds a lot of pressure.
It does.
You mentioned Detroit. I like Colorado. Tons of pressure on Colorado, a team we just spoke of moments ago. And Bednar's been great, but
Tough when 5-year top 9 are out.
billionaire owners want to keep it going.
Me too. I want to be a billionaire owner as well.
Yeah.
We'll get you there on
We
this
can just-
show.
You can only spend $10 in your team though in the NHL.
7 games on tap, including a pretty important one, a statement game for the Edmonton Oilers tonight. Enjoy your games tonight, and we're back tomorrow on Off the Rails Friday with Doug McLean
See you tomorrow.
from Florida. Have a great night, everybody.